Hey. Um, so I finished reading the paper and I thought it was excellent. I know this isn't the first draft, and so you feel it's improved. Um, I think it's in a fantastic place. I think it's ready to submit. Like, you'll read it over once more, and I think it should be accepted wherever you submit it because it's a really strong paper. It's a really interesting take on this agency and structure, right, in at the intersection of kind of state interests and receiving donor aid. And I really like the way you problematize everything because you're like, there's a distinction between kind of old donor states, new donor states, and kind of the limitations and the conditions that they place, right, on Rwanda. So for example, when you highlight the alleged support of the M23 rebel group, how sort of the withdrawal of aid, really makes Rwanda go, oh, actually, we're going to have to start thinking about ourselves because clearly we can't rely on these people, on these international aid donors. And so I think you talk about the Agachiro Development Fund, right? And sorry, I don't remember that off the top of my head, the 2006 foreign aid policy, and how Rwanda starts kind of taking ownership, yeah, and realizing, okay, we are dependent on this aid. We couldn't do a lot of things without it, but we now have to actually start kind of reducing the levels because, at the end of the day, if we need to take action for our own security, to securitize our own borders, and the international community doesn't like that, well, then with a snap of its fingers, it's going to, take away the money that we need, right? That runs the government to a huge degree. And so this kind of, pull yourself up by the bootstraps philosophy, the agachiro, right? The self-reliance, this kind of dignity and pride and self. And I know that, like, some of your elites and bureaucrats have kind of disagreed over when this was established, whether it was established after the whole M23 allegations or, before then, etc. But certainly the call, the kind of the momentum, yeah, to get Rwandans to kind of contribute to Agachiro has increased, it's intensified. Yeah, so I mean, what I really want to say is that this is a really, really interesting paper. It's phenomenal. Kind of, you're placing it, and you're in such a way that we can see the tensions at work. We can see that it's complicated, right? And there's all these supposed kind of contradictions at play, and it's, for me, and I know I don't read a lot of stuff on foreign policy, but from everything you've told me in the last few years, I've not seen or read anything like this with regards foreign policy. Yeah, you don't think of it in terms of structure and agency, and I think this makes a really valuable and critical kind of contribution, but also intervention in the field of foreign policy, but also the way you start thinking about, well, actually, who's kind of leveraging power here, and what are the kind of contradictory or dual ways in which even the government itself, in one single event or in one single speech, is saying, we have to rely on aid, and then at the same hand going, oh, aid is bad and we must reduce it. Yeah. This dual message that's kind of seeping through, yeah, to create this kind of double identity that, we want to be seen as a model state by the West because that is good, right? That means we've kind of arrived. Look at where we've come from to where we are now. But also, fuck it. Let's take pride in ourselves. Let's be able to manage our own affairs, to not always exist under the threat of Western aid donor countries' kind of limitations. Yeah, because at the end of the day, we are who matters. And I like that you downplayed the genocide guilt card. I thought that was a really smart move because otherwise it would have seemed so hackneyed. Oh, it's genocide guilt card. You know, and yeah, I think it's a phenomenal paper. I think read it over once more just for your own sense of like, yes, I think you should be really, really pleased. I know you've been working on this for a little while and you felt really frustrated during the process. I think it's ready to go, and I'm really, really proud. And I can't say much more because there are people walking around, but I love you. And I shouldn't laugh. Yeah, I'm in awe of you. Like, I fucked up writing a 2-pager, for goodness sake, that I wrote in 5 different ways, and I really see the value in writing an outline, right? Spending the time doing a very detailed outline the way you do, because it all comes together, all the sections flow, and you present the tensions amazingly well. And your citations are great, like the number of citations you have, your grasp of the literature, your use of the interview data, named and kind of anonymous, is great, and the conclusion is really strong. I think this is ready to go, and I'm really proud.